Okay, so we went over what was needed for the actual painting of the cover. Once your cover is completely dry, let it dry first. Once your cover is completely dry, then you can start doing the decorating that you want to do. So for this one, I have some dark purple color. I have some dark green color. I have some white. I have some black skinny. I don't know if you can see that. There's some skinny little black felt pen there. So anyway, again, not a whole lot of materials. I like to keep my choices limited. I like to work with a limited palette. That's why I chose 3 colors of paint. And I like to work with limited supplies. So what I tend to do is after I've chosen my colors of paint, I go back and look for things that I can make marks with that will harmonize well with the colors of paint that I'm using. So I may choose things that are very similar colors to the paint colors I've used. I try to choose things that are darker and also things that are lighter. So I'm looking for contrast in value, which is darkness to lightness. So there's another fancy pants art vocabulary word, value. And contrast is also one. So I'm trying to find things that I can make marks with that will give me both some light sections that pop, and then also some darker sections that also pop because I'm putting a dark mark on a lighter colored background. Does that make sense? Okay, so again, I'm keeping in mind the paint colors that I've chosen for the art journal that I'll be building to demonstrate for you all. So I've got that magenta color. I've got like a sky blue, turquoisey blue, and I've got that yellow coming through. So I went and had a look, and you do not need everything I'm going to show you. I've just, because I'm an artist, a mixed media artist, I have a lot of different types of supplies, and not knowing what you will have, I wanted to pick a variety of tools because something you will have, right? Does that make sense? Okay, so I have a permanent fuchsia color, magenta color Sharpie pen. These are fun. These are called Woodies. It's by a company called Stabilo. And often they're advertised as a children's art supply, but it's kind of a cross between a colored pencil and a crayon, and you can draw and color with them. And you can either leave them dry, or what you can do is after you've made those marks with them, you can go back with a damp paintbrush and smudge those marks. So something to know about this, it is water reactive. It has a little paintbrush symbol on there. So this is not a permanent, so if my hands were wet and I had my wet hands on these marks that this Stabilo made, they would smudge. So you need to know that this is not permanent. It is going to reactivate if it gets wet, and they're still a lot of fun. So I've got a couple colors, so one in each colorway. I had a yellow, a pink, and a navy. So I know that's not the same blue that I chose, but it's in that blue family. So I've got those. I have some colored pencils. So I have white, and I have that sky bluish color. I have a pink color, and then a black. So the black is going to give me contrast on I'm like imagining my new journal with all the paint on it, and I'm going to want to have things that pop in color. So I know white will pop, I know black will pop, and then these two colors are my paint colors, right? So again, I am not going to use all of these. I'm just trying to show you some options. So maybe you don't have Woodies, for example. Use colored pencils. Does that make sense? So I'm just trying to show you options, okay? And I've pulled my options based on the color palette that I will be using to create my new art journal. So there's that. I have a couple of paint pens. Let's see. Here's 3 different paint pens. I've got a fuchsia magenta color, I've got a white, and I have this turquoisey color. Oh, I found one more permanent Sharpie pen. So I've got these 2 for Sharpie pens. I have some gel pens. And again, I don't have the whole range. I have blues. I have these blues. I don't have any pink. I don't have any yellow. I did have a gold. I don't know if I'm going to use that or not. This will be a darker, it won't be a bright yellow like this would be. It would be a darker gold, but I may use it. And then white, because again, white is going to give me contrast. So I've got some gel pens. Oh, I have one of these. Do you have one of these? I had one of these growing up as a kid, but it was just the basic colors. It was red, blue, green, and black. And then some years ago, I discovered this one that has these pretty colors. So of course, I had to get it. So it has the pink and the sky blue, like in my paint palette. And then there's this limey green and there's a purple. So I may or may not use that, but it's so much fun. It makes me laugh and it makes me smile. It's very charming. So I'm going to include that. I have just a skinny, this is a skinny permanent, can you see how skinny that nib is? It's really fine. So it's not going to give me a fat black line, but it'll give me a skinny black line. And I have a regular black ballpoint pen. And then I have another fancy art supply you may or may not have. These are called Caran d'Ache or Caran d'Ache. They're Neo Color 2. They're a crayon similar, they act in a similar way to these Stabilo Woodies. So you can draw with them just like you would a crayon. And then you can also go and once they're on your paper, you could go with a wet paint brush and smear them out. The other thing you can do is you can take a wet paint brush and go, let's pretend this paintbrush is wet. You could go right and take it off of here as if it was like a watercolor palette and do your painting that way as well. So these are fun to have if you have them. Again, I had a pink one and I had a blue one that were similar to the paint colors I'm going to be using on this new art journal. And I had a black and a white. So again, these are water reactive. They're not permanent when they're dry. So if you picked up your book with wet hands, you would smudge, they would smudge. Okay, so just full disclosure here that that's what will happen. So you may, again, I am not going to use all of these. I just wanted to give you a sampling of different things that are possible for you to use because you will have something in here. And you could use regular crayons, right? You can use regular felt pens. It's all good. We're just going to make some decorative marks. So it's all good. This is just an idea to get you started, to get your brain thinking. Now, the other thing I'm going to suggest is I have these, like, see how pretty this little, it's like this arcing set of rainbows. And then there's this really pretty botanical leafy shape here. So I want to show you where you can get some inspiration for when you're ready to do your marking and making your little decorative things on here. So I have a rubber stamp and I wish that I don't see any branding on here. So I don't know who made this. I got this so long ago. But here's that, that rainbow arc idea, right? And there's these little scribble circles idea, right? So here's these little scribble circles, and here is this rainbow arcing idea. And here's that botanical right here. So that's very much like this is, right? So, so I used the designs on here as a jumping off point. I even have like this little mark, don't I? So I use those as a jumping off point for putting marks on my art journal. So you can certainly do that. If you have something like this, you could use, you could use the design ideas. You could look through, the back of like mixed media art journaling magazines. Often in the back, they'll have ads for different like rubber stamp companies or something. You could go see if is there some design that you particularly like that you could repeat on the cover of your art journal. There might be like botanical type designs that you have found, maybe looking online, that you could use that as a springboard for your imagination. I could also use these rubber stamps and actually stamp them on my art journal. I could get some black permanent ink so that it wouldn't smudge, and I could just stamp them here. I knew that I wanted to have this, I wanted it drawn by my own hand. I wanted kind of this painterly effect of these designs. I wanted to be able to use different colors. I wanted to be able to make them a different scale than what was, like, for instance, here. See how much bigger that is than this little stamp. Let's see here. Right? So I was able, because I drew it by hand, I was able to make it the color I wanted, and I was able to make it the size that I wanted. Does that make sense? So anyway, but there's no rules. If you have rubber stamps you love, and you have ink colors you love, use that. If you want to do the hand-drawn stuff, do the hand-drawn stuff. If you want to use, the designs that I've used off of this rubber stamp that I do not know who the company was. I wish I did, I could give them credit. But there's no branding on here. Anyway, do what you love. Do what calls to you, what appeals to you, whether it's going simple and saying, I'm just going to stamp rubber stamps on here with my inks that I have, or if you want to get really artsy fartsy and make your own marks, get very painterly, you can do that as well. All right, I think that's it for what you need for doing your art marks, your decorating on the cover of your journal itself.